Well, good morning, everyone. I have got the absolute pleasure to be interviewing Rebecca Wofford this morning as we are here November 19th celebrating National Entrepreneur Month and Global Entrepreneurship Week and the release of Megan Peterson Fenn's and my book, Inspiring Global Entrepreneurs. And Rebecca and I actually went to college together. We both went to what at the time was Randolph-Macon Women's College. And we both studied abroad in England together for a year, and we have not actually seen or spoken to each other in just over 19 and a half years. We celebrate our 20th anniversary from graduating next year. So it has been a long time. And we are here with Rebecca today because she is the co-founder and executive director of an amazing international charity called The Lunch Project. And you can go and check it out online at thelunchproject.org, and you will have links to it on our website, and we'll be able to see more. And this morning, you're going to hear more from Rebecca about what it's like to actually use that entrepreneurial spirit and setting up an international nonprofit. So welcome, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us.
Heidi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to talk about the Lunch Project with you.
Wonderful. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. So let me introduce you a little bit more formally. As I mentioned, you are the co-founder and executive director of the Lunch Project. But prior to that really becoming more of a full-time role for you, you also are actually a lawyer and a law professor and have had an extremely busy and successful career and continue to have a busy and successful career in the legal field. And I was interested in reading about that advocacy really for those underserved and people going through domestic violence was really something that became a mark of your time in the legal area. So it seems, we'll talk a little bit more about maybe how that got you into the work you're doing with the Lunch Project. But it's a fabulous story for everyone out there who might be wondering, okay, I'm a professional, and how can I marry my professional interests and my philanthropic interests at the same time?
Absolutely.
So it's a really great story. So everyone listening will really be able to hear that actually it is possible to keep both of those things going. I'm sure not easy to juggle, but that it is really possible to marry the two things.
Absolutely.
So on that note, let's get started and just really hear, Rebecca, I really would just love to hear about the inspiration that really brought the Lunch Project to fruition. How did it get started?
Sure. I will explain to you, Heidi, kind of my story in Africa that started in 2011. But I want everyone to keep in mind that prior to that, I had always been inspired to help the underserved and to help children, even back when I was at Randolph-Macon Women's College and working an internship in the Victims Assistance Office. I mean, my heart was always sort of to help the underserved no matter what capacity I was in professionally. As a lawyer, I was a children's rights advocate. At the law school, I helped develop their pro bono program, which is students giving back with their legal skills. And so, I think that what was helpful to me is noticing this trend in my life, that my passion was really about children, children's education, children's rights, and that my skill set was about advocacy. And combining my passion with my skill set at the moment I was asked if I could help in Africa really began the story of the Lunch Project. I was on a research-related trip with law students in Africa in March 2011. And while I was there, we were studying a lot of different aspects of Africa that deal with international children's rights, how they're different from or similar to laws and rights that children have in the U.S. And, a lot of that is a heartbreaking story. I mean, we traveled to orphanages, after-school care type homes, getting kids off the streets, and we went to one public school. That public school happened to be La Manana Primary School, which is located outside of Arusha, Tanzania, East Africa, right at the base of Kilimanjaro, in a very rural area that is 90% Maasai.
Wow.
And I just was really touched by the parents and the teachers' will and drive to help these children become successes, but with very little infrastructure and help. The great thing about Tanzania is that it has adopted, as a country, it has adopted the UN Mission Pillars so that all children will have education. All children have the right to go to school. What happens in a country like this is that even though this is a great and lofty goal, they really do not have the money or infrastructure to support it. And that's what I saw at this school. Here's a school running on about $700 a year, the equivalent of that, given to them by their government.
Wow.
And the student-teacher ratio was 125 to 1.
Oh my
These
God.
kids were attending school from 7:30 to 2:30, wanting to learn the same time that my kids go to school in the U.S., which somehow that was what hit me in the gut. Here these kids were walking to school. There's no public transportation for them. Attending school from 7:30 to 2:30, the same as my kids in the U.S., and yet they had nothing in their bellies. I mean, most were not coming with food in their bellies, but even if they were attending school all day, and there was no lunch program. And that for some reason just hit me as something that was unfair for these children that maybe we could help with. And the head teacher was so passionate about his children at the school. He looked me in the eye and he asked me, "Can you help us?"
Wow.
And my first thought was, I don't know. But when I stood back and really looked at it, I thought, can we look at this as a logic problem, as a lawyer would look at a legal problem, break it down into its components, and solve it, or try to solve it. And when you really think about it, can a school that has no kitchen, no running water, no electricity, for most people that would be a fairly daunting problem to solve.
Yes.
But now with our education program in the U.S., we have kids in the U.S. who are solving this problem with us every day. Wow. They look at it, they get that these might be barriers, but they can be barriers that are overcome if we just think about it for a little bit. So what we decided to do was come back and do the research to see, is there another organization that we can tap into who we felt like that was doing it the right way? And honestly, we didn't find that. We didn't find an existing organization that was doing it with what we considered to be the buy-in from the local community in Africa. We worked with them. We asked them, what do you need? They are running their lunch program. We're not running their lunch program. We're helping to fund it. So mamas cook the food. The children bring their cups every day. The children bring and carry water and firewood every day. We have a local coordinator who brings fresh corn from the farm, milk from the cow, so money goes back into the local economy, and they're eating healthy food made by the moms. It's organic. It's 100% environmentally friendly. There is no waste that is left over, but they're also cooking it in a very Tanzanian way by the mamas over the open fire. So many benefits have come from the fact that we set it up based on the model that the community wanted to adopt. And I think that's really why it has been a long-term program. We started very conservatively with 1 day a week. We did a soft launch in the U.S. where basically we invited 50 to 100 people in Charlotte, most of the people we knew, and gave a pitch and said, is this something you would support? If we explained to you all the details, would this be something you would be willing to support? From that soft launch party, we had enough to pay for 1 day a week for 1 year.
Amazing.
That we knew from putting it into a basic business model, let's make sure, let's do a test, let's see if it'll work. We did that, made sure it would work, launched it, got the support we needed here after getting the support we needed in Africa to know that we would be a success for the first year when most nonprofits or great ideas might die. From then, we were able to conservatively grow 1 day a week until we are where we are now, 2 years later, serving 5 meals. Every day school is in session. There is a lunch served by a lunch sponsor. What are the components that make it easy and simple? One, the setup was very easy and simple. Our cost to set up the program was $250.
Amazing.
That paid for the pots and pans so the mamas would have something to cook in.
Wow.
We give a small stipend to the mamas with each meal that is served so that they are at the school, they feel like they are a part of this, and it's their lunch program that they're doing for their kids, and they can have pride in that. You have to understand that before 1960, a lot of the women in Africa weren't given the opportunity to even attend school. And up until now, it wasn't truly open and to all the kids to attend. So a lot of the mamas who are Maasai did not receive an education and felt intimidated to come to their kids' school. Where you and I might not feel that way, they felt intimidated. And that was one of the things that the headmaster pointed out to me after we started the lunch program is, here's another great benefit. We have moms who were not able to come before because of how they felt about themselves, coming and bringing their skill set and their passion for their children and feeling like they are owners of a program that is doing so much good for their children and their children's education and their children's success in life. And so that part of it has just been an amazing part for me as a woman to see that we're helping these other women. The other really good thing about the project is that because we have a local coordinator, we don't ship food, so no processed food is shipped over to the students. There are no customs agent who is getting a piece of it, so we're able to keep corruption doesn't exist in our program because we're not lining the pockets of anyone who might try to get their hand on the food and sell it somewhere. We buy it locally from the farmers, deliver it fresh to the school each day. I don't know if you heard about some of the World Food Programs that happened in India this summer of stored food that's kept too long.
Yes.
We don't store food for weeks. We deliver it fresh each week to make sure that it's safe and safe for the kids. We don't add any preservatives or anything artificial to their food. We don't bring anything artificial into their environment that didn't exist before. So all of that, and then I get to tell people, and it costs 9 cents a meal.
Amazing.
So for 9 cents, pennies that we normally would discard or throw away in the U.S., if you put them in a bowl or have your children put them in a bowl for me, I will do something with them. Something that's really valuable and that's helping another kid. And at $85 then feeds the entire school of 900. And within that, gives some money back to the local farmers and the mamas so that their community is being lifted up out of poverty and not just, helping the kids on, a one-time basis. So we're looking long-term to help these kids succeed. We measure their test scores. Their entrance into secondary school has been rising as we look at the metrics every year. They're getting better and better. We went from about half of the students passing the exam to 86% over the years that we've been doing the lunch program. So in that sense, it's successful. They get to go on to secondary school and hopefully then have something they get to choose in life to be. They tell us when we're there interviewing them, I want to be a scientist, or I want to be a mathematician, or I want to be a teacher or president of Tanzania. And we want them to feel like they're empowered to get there. And let's just get you through elementary school and help you succeed on with your education. To be able to sit there and get an education, we all know requires some food in the belly so that you have a full belly so that you can eat. And that's the simple problem that we solve that we now try to explain in elementary schools here through our education program.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you say, you've demonstrated a couple of things that have been themes throughout our book and throughout the entrepreneurs that we interviewed for the book. One, which is this yes attitude. So the head teacher at the school, he asks and he says, can you help? And you think possibly, and make it happen. And that is something that seems to really distinguish the people who actually do go on to follow their passions and put something into place. And the other thing that came out really clearly in the interviews with the book and that you're also demonstrating is that it's small steps forward day to day, mean that now 2 and a bit years later on, you can look back and see what you've done and how it started. First with that first trip that wasn't even related to this. And that's what's so amazing, Oh,
but you should always be looking for opportunities, right? I mean, I always had a passion for this. And when an opportunity opened, I felt like I was ready.
Yes.
Because I had taken opportunities in the U.S. when they came to me to learn about children's rights and to learn and help the underserved. I felt more ready to say yes to that question because I had been working on my skill set and marrying my passion to my skill set all along.
Yes.
And when the opportunity came up, I was able to not be too afraid, but to say yes, and then to make sure that I had it in the right place. I mean, at some point, you just have to launch, right? You have to be willing to just pull the trigger. Maybe not everything is lined up, but get enough of it lined up, and then just say go, or it won't happen.
Yeah.
You know, too many people have great ideas they're just not ready to execute on.
Exactly. Well, that's another. You've hit on two other things then. One, being okay to deal with the unknown and not know what it's going to look like at the end. So be able, so many of the people in your story is exactly the same. They started and they had no idea how it would eventually grow. And I always say to people, I'm always like, no company started as, say, Apple, the way that it is now. It starts in someone's garage and it grows from there. And then the other thing that you've highlighted is actually seeing the opportunity and knowing from your past, learning from past experiences of encountering change, learning about something, and that growing that skill set, that you grow your confidence in yourself to be able to handle those things. And we have a quote in there from a friend of mine, his book, Ben Hunt Davis's book, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And he says, if you don't use that change muscle, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. And
Absolutely.
Looking back on, where are the other times I faced the unknown, or where's the other times when I stuck my neck out there and did something I wasn't comfortable with and had such amazing rewards. And that's probably what got you on that plane and that project with the law school to Tanzania in the first place.
Absolutely.
And so really we have a lot of reflections in the book asking people to really look back on what are the things that you've done, what are the changes, because sometimes we forget that we have that skill set. So you've really just embodied 4 of the key things that we've talked about in the book. And the other thing is that, the fact that you look for opportunities, that really is that entrepreneurial spirit in action. And not everyone does that. Right. Not everyone sees the opportunities or looks for them, and fewer act on them.
I hear you.
I
think that when you say we really can change the world, sometimes it is one bowl at a time.
Yeah.
And we didn't name it that to make it that, but sometimes it is that way. But it was being able to say, yes, I can look at this and break it down into its components, figure out how to solve it, and take that model that I've put in my head and put it into action. And that's what we're trying to teach elementary school kids here in the U.S., that when they face what they might see as a big problem, I mean, we're dealing with world hunger. What bigger problem is there, Yeah. But we're telling the kids, look, we decided I might not be able to feed 3.4 billion people, but I can feed 900 a day, and here's how we do it. Help me work this problem backwards. And I have them work it through, and our education director is now going into the school system and taking this program about creative problem solving with even big world problems into elementary schools, and it's fun.
Yeah.
They learn a little Swahili. They see cultural differences and similarities, and look at the lunch project and they think, 1, I empathize with another kid.
Yeah.
I want to help other kids. 2, they don't care anymore that they live on the other side of the world. Their neighbor, because of the internet and because of the expansion of how we have grown in our communications, isn't the same as who our neighbors were. I mean, really, they do embrace a community in Africa as being kids who were like them and with them on this journey. And then 3, they see, I get it. I get that these are just components, and if I look at it instead of like this big problem as the little parts that you have to put together, just like a math problem, right? Just like a logic problem. If I do that, then I can see that A plus B plus C equals an answer to this. And when my opportunity, I'm hoping for all these kids that we're educating every day in the U.S., that when a problem comes up, they will be confident and know I have a skill set that can solve a problem, and I'm willing to step up and do it on a global level. Mm-hmm. And what kind of change can that make happen in the world? I hope it makes a lot of change, but I think that's what it takes. And I think if we change the mindset of kids in the U.S. to not being afraid of solving these big problems, then they will feel more empowered to do that throughout their life. And we just had our annual luncheon. And the theme of my presentation at our annual lunches was, can you help us?
Wow.
That was the first question. It was 4 little words asked of me by the head teacher at La Mañana. But it happens to also be the question kids ask of us every day.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are looking to us and saying, can you help me navigate a world that seems bigger than I ever thought it would be? Can you help me figure out how to get through life and be the person that I want to be?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, we can and we should. We should be modeling that as adults. We should be embracing our skill set and our passions and talents and doing something. But we should also be saying to them, and you can too.
Yes.
Even though you're a little kid, you can make big changes. And let me give you some help with the skill set and take that passion that is definitely in your heart and help grow that, instead of stamping it out, with all the other drudgeries of life, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that's our goal.
Well,
and we're with little kids.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love that as you mentioned, you're getting in there when they're at the elementary school level, so that really building on that foundation. And, you've mentioned yet another thing too. We call the book Inspiring Global Entrepreneurs. Not everyone's businesses say global necessarily, but what every single person embodies and that you do as well, and that you're helping teach those children, is this global mindset, which is looking creatively at things, being open and accepting of other cultures, and not seeing similarities and not differences.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, a big component of what we all face and what we all should learn from career path, no matter what it is, but especially when you're doing something that is new or that requires an entrepreneurial spirit, is that relationships absolutely do matter and that you need to be building them. And when you look at these kids on the other side of the globe, don't think of them as, those are kids in Africa, I have nothing in common with them. Think about who they are, that they want to get an education to, they love learning, they love math problems. Think about their day and what it's like, and let's focus on all the positive that you feel in your heart about them, and that all those relationships are going to matter in life, right? I mean, and that we know that and learn that, but I can't tell you how many times I've been thankful for the relationships that I have built that have allowed me to do what I'm getting to do right now. Mm-hmm. And it isn't just about me and one person changing it, but it is about people embracing this great idea, but helping move it forward into accomplishing true results.
Yeah.
And that's what we have. I mean, I have somebody in Africa, I have a full team of volunteers here in the U.S., and I have all these great kids that our education director and I get to be with, and they inspire me more than I inspire them. And that's, elementary school kids became our focus, not just because we were helping a primary school in Africa. I mean, it was smart to start in primary Africa because secondary schools have more resources and primary schools really didn't. So we saw the need in the primary school level. It made sense that if we're going to be in primary school there, wouldn't it be helpful to be in elementary schools here? But even more importantly, we want to captivate the empathy that they already feel and help them do something with it before they become too focused on individualism, which unfortunately is the negative part of Westernization.
Yes, yeah.
There's an entrepreneurial spirit that requires some level of individualism. And I appreciate and I'm thankful that I was taught that in my liberal arts education from day one. But there is also a community part of that spirit that kids need to know about too, that there's a little bit of we before me or you before me, part of what we're teaching kids. So they grow up with this mindset of no matter if I'm in a business or a nonprofit or whatever I'm doing in life, it is about the people in the community that I'm serving or supporting, and it's about who's on that team with me to do that and how we're going to accomplish that. And I have to be confident in myself, but also be able to rely on people who have skill sets that are different from mine.
Yes.
And that is a big learning lesson that most people have in their careers. But I think if we start teaching children about this early on, then they'll get it. And then you know what? They do get it.
Yeah.
They get it. They get that they want to help these kids, and they get how simple it is.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And I think nowadays too, they're getting taught a lot more about the teamwork element at school too, versus we really didn't get a lot of that. Maybe when we finally went to college, or something. And that was another thing that came through in the book too, was really know yourself, know your strengths and how those can become a weakness if
Absolutely.
you don't actually bring in the other resources that you need, because you can't do it all yourself. And I just love that quote. Can you help us? And one of the contributors to the book, Jennifer True Neal, who's in Canada and was in England before, she had this quote, and she said, "It's not a weakness to ask for help."
Absolutely
and
not.
It's so true. We cannot do any of this on our own, and your story is just such a great example of it. I love that he asked you that very simple question. More of us need to be asking it,
Absolutely. And now I look at people and I say to them, can you help us?
I love it. I love it.
I'm thankful he asked it of me, and then I know I need to ask it of other people.
Yeah, exactly. No, because you would not be able to have the reach that you have if it weren't for you getting out there. And I'm sure, just tell me, for you in terms of comfort zone, you've really had to get out of your comfort zone in a number of ways, I'm sure, to bring this to fruition.
Oh, absolutely. Most people know me as an extremely risk-averse person. Lawyers are always skeptical people.
Yeah.
We're going to see the what's negative in something before we see the positive. Part of our skill set is to look for that.
Yes, yeah.
In contract writing, where are the problems instead of where are the positives? That's a legal mind's going to do that. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, don't worry, I was a skeptic, and I was the most risk-adverse. And it had to be something that I knew we could do before I would do it.
Yeah.
And that has given us great insight into, are we in control of the finances? Absolutely. We know how all of that works. And, it gives you the sense of control without taking away your spirit.
Yeah.
To be somebody who has that piece in you, the risk adverse, the skepticism, is okay.
Yeah.
Don't feel like that should stop you from saying yes to something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't enough to stop me from saying yes, mm-hmm. and I'm thankful for that. But it was enough in me to make sure I'm going to dot the I's and cross the T's and feel good about every aspect before we launch each part of it. And that's okay. We can take the time. Let's do it right. So I think there's a little bit of both in me, and I think most people have that. You just have to make sure that the naysayer in you or the skeptic in you doesn't outweigh the person who's wanting to grab on and say yes to something that seems bigger than you.
Yeah.
That's been my challenge. But I think it's easily overcome if you do a self-awareness test. When I went back to what is really my role as someone who is leading this organization, at the end of the day, it was about advocacy. Mm-hmm. I'm a trained advocate. Mm-hmm. I went to law school to be trained as an advocate. Yeah. I've taught advocacy mm-hmm. in law school for 7 years.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can do is advocate for these children. And at the end of the day, that's all I really have to do.
Yes.
When it means we need an accountant to do the taxes, we get an accountant to do the taxes.
Exactly.
When we need somebody who's good at marketing to help with marketing, you have to do that self-awareness check to say, is the role that I'm creating with this business or with this nonprofit that I'm launching, am I in the right role?
Yeah.
And do I have other people who I trust who can be on the team in the other roles? And when it came down to that, and I did that self-awareness test, I am an advocate. I can do that. I can go and talk about these children and their needs and be able to spread that information as much as I can, like this interview today.
Yeah.
And the other roles that I don't do, those are for people who are willing to be on the team and help. And we've had all of those filled by wonderful people. That is how it works.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love it, because so too often people don't do that reflection and they don't know enough, and then they can't get out of their own way to make it successful.
Absolutely.
So it's a fantastic lesson, and one we really did highlight quite a bit. So you've just touched on it absolutely naturally. So that's wonderful.
Good.
Now tell me, Rebecca, sorry,
Okay.
tell me about really, what are the tips that you would have for someone else who might be thinking about marrying their current professional skill set with a philanthropic interest, as you have been able to do so successfully?
Right. I mean, I wrote down 3 tips, and even before, and I kind of got ahead of myself with what I was talking about, and we can get into more detail from them. But one was to be very self-aware, to reach out for help in areas where of need or where you need help, and then take it one step at a time. And if you have a great idea, figure out all the pieces of that idea that need to be put in place, and then be okay to launch that idea. And that would be, to me, the kind of overarching tips that I would give people. Now, I can give a lot more practical tips of, if you're starting a nonprofit specifically, you may want to reach out to an existing nonprofit and ask them for their help. We came under the umbrella of an existing nonprofit for almost a year and a half.
Interesting.
And they were our fiscal agent, so we could have the tax identification, and they really were a model for us so we can see how a nonprofit operates. Again, knowing I'm a lawyer and I was a law professor, but I had not run a nonprofit, so I needed to be trained in that skill set. The best training is still, in my mind, on the ground doing the work, but having a mentor or an umbrella over you is always helpful, and then to know who are your best community partners, right? And so in reaching out in Tanzania was really quite simple. We had, our contact, who I've known for a long time on the ground, who was very connected to the public school system. And that was, so that was pretty easy. Your contacts in Tanzania are going to be the parents, the teachers, and the local community. But who are your contacts when you're building your awareness and your presence and your business stateside? And sometimes it's a little trickier, and you need to be able to reach out and to those people and identify who are going to be who are going to be part of your mission. And it goes back to, well, what is our mission? At the core, it's serving children in the U.S. So again, our partners are going to be surrounding our mission. Who else serves children in the U.S.? The public school system, parents, and then for us, small local businesses who want to make sure that education is key in the community that we live in. And so I think just having a model of community partners that surrounds your mission is more important than just reach out and grab corporate sponsors right and left that have nothing to do with your mission. Because those are going to die off quickly, where your community partners who are loyal to your mission are going to be long term. And so that has been the help, that has been sort of eye-opening for me on this journey, is not just everybody who wants. There will be a million people who hear your idea and say, it's a great idea, let me help you. But unless they are, know what your mission is and are putting their talents and time towards your mission, they're not helping you.
Yes.
And that is okay. Right? And so you do have to do a little, assessment of that and be okay with, these time and talents go to our mission, we're going to keep those. This stuff doesn't, and we're going to let that go. Right? Because it has to be just like any business. I don't have a bottom line in the sense of I've got to make X number of profit every year. 100%, we're volunteer based, 100% goes to the food. But I do have a core mission, and that's about serving children in Tanzania and serving children in the U.S. in these very specific ways. And I think the more specific you can be about that mission, the more the rest of your circle around your mission is going to make sense. So you got to get into that room and think about that mission and get it down to its specifics and know who you are and what you're doing before you try to sell it to anyone else or before you start taking help from people.
Yes, very true. So really doing that homework beforehand.
Right.
And knowing exactly, then you can have your pitch ready. And then when you're asking for help, it's really that, kind of that 80-20 rule, that you're going to be getting really the help from the top 20% that are really going to make a difference to you, whether it's for profit or whether it's nonprofit. And it's going to save everybody time in the long run and make sure that you're more effective.
Right. I spent some time at first chasing down rabbits that I thought were going to be great rabbits to chase down. But looking back on it, I see they weren't really a part of our mission. So now I'm much more cognizant of, building this relationship that is about our organization, does it go to our mission? And just reminding myself what is specifically our mission on a daily basis to make sure that everything is connecting to that. And I think the bigger an organization gets, the more checking in and being reminded of your specific missions, even if they're changing and growing, but making sure that everything's coming in, going towards that mission is always a good thing.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So tell me, just as we start to wrap up here, because I'm just so impressed, and I actually got, for my brother-in-law, who has everything, you know, buying lunch for the 900 children in La Manyata school in Tanzania is a fabulous gift. So I'm sending that out there to everyone in time for Christmas, in time for birthdays, and I saw the beautiful stars that you guys have been making, the Christmas ornaments. Those are beautiful as well on the website. And, you know, I've just moved house, and having moved all of this stuff, I tell you, I will be buying more lunches because I'm so tired of stuff. So this really is, you know, supporting these children. Not only are people supporting the children in Tanzania, but they're supporting the education program to be developing this global philanthropic mindset within the elementary school children in the Charlotte area and beyond.
And beyond. We hope to move it beyond.
Wonderful. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. You know, what is next? If there's anything that you can share about kind of a next 12-month goal, without giving any major secrets away, but what is next for the lunch project?
Because we hope to launch Kids for TLP.
Wow.
Kids for the Lunch Project. And the Kids for TLP is this kind of the natural progression from our education program. We started an education program in Charlotte area schools, but what we have had since then, because we're on social media, right, Facebook and the internet definitely helps get your message out there, is that kids in other parts of the country love the idea of doing their own creative project and giving the money from that creative project to helping other kids, especially with lunch in school. And so we're hoping to launch a Kids for TLP. Giving can be anytime, anywhere, and have them connected to us through social media so that we can be a platform for showcasing these kids, no matter where they live, who are doing a creative problem or creative project and coming up with a way to help the kids in another school elsewhere. So that's kind of what we're working on.
Wow, amazing. So a very exciting 2014 ahead for you guys as you work to really celebrate your third year and beyond.
That's right.
Amazing.
Changing the world one bowl at a time.
Exactly. No, I absolutely love it. And the school that Rebecca and I both went to, the motto for the school, which is now Randolph College, was Vita Abundantior, which is, you know, life more abundant. And you certainly do embody all of that, even still, of course. And the other thing is, you know, we both did the study abroad program at Randolph-Macon Women's College, and 10% of the proceeds from inspiring global entrepreneurs is going towards the study abroad program, because we really feel there's so many examples of people in our book and elsewhere who really had an opportunity to live abroad during college or at an early time in their lives, and that also helps with that global mindset.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm always thankful that I was not intimidated to go to Africa because I'd backpacked in Europe and lived in England for a year in college.
Yes.
It was no longer a daunting idea to think, oh, I can go to Africa, where for a lot of adults it really would have been. And I'm very thankful and grateful that my college had that opportunity for me to be exposed to life beyond. Anytime any kid can be exposed to life beyond the four walls that they're in is always good. And that's what you were able to do that more now with like the education program, showing them Tanzania. But when we were in school, we really needed that to life beyond the brick wall at Randolph-Macon. And, you know, the Reading program is what did it.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Megan and I were both part of that as well as yourself, and it's just amazing to look back on it. Another contributor to the book, Laura Baker, graduated in '92, and she married her family's, they had an exchange student from Portugal, and she married his brother many years later, and she's now in Portugal and has a business making frozen cocktail mixes, and really fantastic. So that was great to connect. It's been wonderful just through this project to be connecting with other alums who I had lost touch with and hadn't been in touch with. So it's just, you know, again, that entrepreneurial spirit, that life more abundant. I just love it. And I think the work that you are doing at the Lunch Project, the model that you have got, bringing in your local community and making it easy for other people to also get involved is a fantastic model for success. I am sure that it won't be long, and maybe is already happening, before your model will be being copied by others out there as an example of how to actually get an international nonprofit going and make a success of it.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Well,
and please check out our Facebook page and like us on Facebook.
And the
follow us on Twitter.
And the Facebook page is it the Lunch Project?
It's the Lunch Project.
Yeah, just the Lunch Project. Fabulous. I'm already connected and love it. And then what is your Twitter hashtag?
Again, the Lunch Project.
Oh, wonderful. Fabulous. So that makes it easy.
That very easy. And you'll see that the kids hold up a sign for the lunch sponsor. Day lunches served. So we're able to be completely transparent and really show gratitude for all the people who are giving us money to help this program. We do a lunch sponsorship Facebook post every day.
I love that. I love that part too. It's fantastic. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you after all of these years. We will make sure that it's not another 20 now that we're both just not too far down the road in North Carolina.
I hope so.
Wonderful. And we look forward to hearing more and more about the Lunch Project as it grows, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Heidi.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.